So Microsoft's AI boss, whose name is Mustafa Suleyman, which actually sounds a lot like that bad guy in Lord of the Rings, said some things that are really scaring people right now and also creating a lot of discussion on whether or not we should believe it. He basically told the Financial Times that we are headed for human level performance on most, if not all, professional tasks, and that he got extremely specific. He said most white collar tasks, lawyer, accountant, project manager, marketing, could be fully automated within the next 12 to 18 months. Even just from those examples of jobs he mentioned, you're talking about millions and millions and millions of people. Just look at lawyers alone. And then accounting, project manager, marketing, all of these different jobs have millions of people. And he's saying, in theory, in 18 months, these could all be fully automated. Now, obviously, one of the key words here, I think, is the word could. And that doesn't mean that all of these companies are going to adopt all of this technology in 18 months. It takes a lot of companies a very long time to make any sort of changes, while other companies make changes too fast and a lot of times end up screwing themselves over. He actually thinks that a lot of today's technology is kind of like chatbots. Obviously, LLMs are all the rage right now. But instead of calling it full AGI, he's calling it artificial capable intelligence, which is what he's referring to could replace white collar jobs. Now, the thing about what you have to consider when some guy who is also the head of a AI department at a major company, who also happens to be publicly traded, by the way, and Microsoft stock could actually use the bump right now after the last few months that they've had, you have to consider that he may be just saying this to hype things up and to get the stock price going back up a little bit, saying, well, Microsoft is going to be at the forefront of this new movement. And in 18 months, a lot of these jobs are going to be gone. And what are people going to use? It's going to be Microsoft's AI. So you can obviously see that there's some bias from somebody like that who's the head of any sort of AI organization or AI department. A lot of them are going to say stuff like this all the time. Everybody's trying to make their prediction right now. But basically, if you believe him, if you have any sort of job that has to do with documents, spreadsheets, decks, email, that kind of stuff, you're kind of in the blast radius right now for what could be replaced in the next 18 months, according to him. Now, we had another notable person who just came out with a new article here, actually today, as of me making this video on February 16th. It's Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, of course, was in the U.S. presidential race for a while before pulling out. He's a business owner, and he had some comments. He's not like just some AI CEO. He has comments that come from a little bit of a different place, and it seems like a little more of a gut punch what he actually said. And he's saying that replacing white-collar work with AI has already started. It's not some dystopian thing anymore. Andrew Yang's timeline is actually very close to Suleiman's, and he's saying probably within 2 years or less that many of these white-collar jobs could be replaced or maybe even paid less. It just depends on how these companies handle it. He calls it the great disemboweling of white-collar jobs. So he mentioned a bunch of different ripple effects. I'll have a link to his article in the YouTube description. He thinks that mid-career workers could actually get squeezed out first. And we've already seen the problems with new grads really struggling to get a job in the area that they studied in. Then, of course, you have the side effects of this whole movement that could end up being another problem. I've talked before about how remote work actually impacts commercial real estate, but he also talked about, he talks about how downtown areas and office districts could end up hollowing out. And then, of course, you have the social stress, which a lot of people are already starting to feel with the mass layoffs at these major companies. And again, new grads having a really hard time getting a decent job out of college. So one of the conclusions you could take from what Andrew Yang is saying as well is, even if it doesn't fully replace your job yet, it could replace a lot of the parts of your job that make it worth the salary. Now, whether that leads to layoffs or pay cuts or a team trimming, we don't know exactly, and it may vary from company to company. We actually had some great Reddit comments on this as well, because some of these were actually talked about on Reddit recently. One comment I liked is like, if office work disappears, who's paying for Microsoft Office? So a lot of these products are like Microsoft, for instance, a lot of their products are literally built as the infrastructure for companies that have lots of employees that use these offices. And yet their AI department could be part of the reason why people don't need Microsoft Office anymore. So is that a net benefit or a net loss for Microsoft? Some other people made some comments about how companies move a lot slower than the AI hype does. Obviously, the hype is through the roof, and many of them just take way too long to approve anything for this to actually happen within 2 years. And then you have to ask the question, which was also pointed out by a Redditor, who's going to own the decision when something breaks? You still have to have at least a number of people in charge to basically take the blame when something doesn't go right. Because how are you going to blame AI? AI is not in charge. AI does what you tell it to do. So who's telling the AI what to do? And then they will be the ones that take the blame if something goes wrong, not the AI. Some other great points are like, well, if you wipe out the junior roles or you make it hard for entry-level workers to enter the workforce, how are you going to have seniors in the future? These seniors are going to retire off, and then who's going to replace them? And if you actually look at a lot of tools like Copilot or a lot of these LLMs, they're really good at some things, but a lot of times they do make mistakes, and it can take you a while to fix those mistakes. You can't fully take your eyes off of them. It needs guidance. It needs feedback. It needs someone to keep an eye on it. It needs constant tweaking as well and constant training. And when you have like huge accounts on the line, are you really going to just fully hand the keys over to AI? But what a lot of these people are counting on, a lot of these experts, they're saying that the development progress is growing so rapidly that by the time a couple of years have passed, maybe early 2028, these could be at the point where you could mostly hand the keys over to the AI. We have more and more people predicting that AI is going to take over. Now they're saying only 2 years or less away. But the real questions are like, who's going to take the blame when the AI messes up, which is pretty much guaranteed to happen unless AI somehow perfects itself between now and then. How much are they going to be willing to trim team sizes? How much of a human touch is necessary to a lot of these jobs? And that's obviously going to vary by the job itself. And if you have these mass layoffs that continue and they keep rising, what are all these people going to do? How are you going to develop talent and have senior roles if you're not actually giving entry-level graduates a chance in the first place? And how are a lot of these companies going to do well? If their AI is great, okay, but a lot of their products like Copilot, like Microsoft Office, that have essentially become the backbone of a lot of companies, is it going to hurt their profits? Are their AI profits going to outweigh the profits of their like flagship products? It's just so much up in the air right now, and a lot of people are skeptical, but a lot of people are also very fearful because it seems like the layoffs are starting, and we do see some of the evidence that some of this is true, especially like with new graduates.